Hi. Before going to video, please subscribe to my channel for more interesting stuff.
Story from r/paranormal. Posted by u/Tiger and Inc. Quarantined in a haunted house. How should we invest? ETA, whoa. We did not expect this to get this much interest. Sorry it's taken me a second to get back to this, but I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to comment and share advice. I should have added that we've already checked for CO and for mold. We had inspections before we moved in, and I've had the mold check guys out again since then. I had a crazy theory for a minute that we were tripping like Salem witches. No dies. At the moment we're torn on trying to investigate properly for the concerns you guys have posted. We don't want it to kick anything up, but it does seem responsive and not especially scary, so maybe it wants the attention too? Either way, we have a few thoughts. We can definitely try to do an EVP session and see if anything talks. We'll likely try to do that on a night when the kitchen tapping is especially active so we can at least get the tapping. I'm struggling to figure out a good way to make it clear that we're not faking the noises. We considered setting up a static cam. If we do, it'll be in the basement corner where we most often see the lights. If we do get any evidence, we'll be sure to post it. Hi Reddit. Like many folks right now, my roommates and I are currently under a shelter-in-place order. In our case, this means we'll be spending an indeterminate amount of time in a haunted house. We were wondering if you guys have any advice for cheap ways to investigate, or if maybe you could help us identify what it is we're experiencing? I've never experienced anything like it, and I'm kind of at a loss. Background. We moved into this house about a year and a half ago. It's a beautiful two-story mid-century modern home in the PNW that was partially renovated after essentially being left to rot. The original builder of the home was a Japanese man who put a ton of work into the garden, even illegally imported plants and stones to fill it, but after his death, the lot was split up and sold, and the garden was mostly destroyed. A few Japanese maples and sculpted pine trees remain. We've heard from neighbors there were originally small shrines around the property, but all of these were lost as well. I have no idea if these details matter. Experiences. This house has always had a vibe. I wouldn't call it a bad vibe, but there's always a sense that someone else is in the room with you. A few months after we moved in, things started happening. To avoid boring you guys with a giant post, I'll detail some of the more common or interesting incidents, and then if you want more details, I'm happy to provide more. It's not like I'm going anywhere. Moving things, it really likes to move things when groups of people are around. It's visibly rattled pictures, launched a fork off a table, and lifted pieces of paper up and down. This happens almost exclusively in the basement, along with most of the stuff that goes on. Most of the time multiple people see it happen. I consider myself an open-minded skeptic, so I've tried to recreate the movements, but I can't figure it out. It's way beyond any breeze or air gust, and in the case of the fork, no one was anywhere near it. It was like it just jumped off the table. Tapping. This one's definitely the most common and seems to be the most responsive, for lack of a better word. My roommate and I like hanging out together in the evenings. 3 to 4 times a week, we'll hear something moving things around in either the bathroom or the kitchen. Most of the time it sounds like someone tapping something or knocking things together. Occasionally it'll clearly open and shut a cabinet. Weirdly, we've noticed it gets more active when we're talking, almost like it's emphasizing things we're saying. Last week in particular, it tapped under every word I said for a good 10 seconds for no particular reason. It's also tapped on my shoulder. To be clear, these aren't the knocks of a house settling or anything like that. This clearly sounds and feels like someone's finger drumming. The specific rhythm is tap ta tap tap, if that matters. Noises. One of the first experiences we all had in the house was a conversation. Every so often, especially in the summer, we'll hear 2 seemingly drunk guys having a muffled conversation in the downstairs front room. At first I thought this might be sound somehow carrying from the neighbors or something, but it's clearly coming from that room and stops when someone goes looking for it. At one point last year they got particularly rowdy, and I clearly heard a woman outside my bedroom upstairs say, "Quiet." They shut up after. We've also heard growls, a weird yowling sound, and a mimic. The mimic, my roommate thinks this is something unrelated to the other stuff. I'm not sure. There's something in here that mimics other people's voices and animal noises, and of all the stuff, this one creeps me out the most. At one point I was walking downstairs and called out for my roommate, who wasn't yet home. I faintly heard someone call out in response from his room, only it sounded off. It was almost like his voice but filtered through a bad audio system. At the same time I got the overwhelming sense that I should turn around and walk back upstairs, which I did. It's the only time I've ever felt really uncomfortable in the house, though admittedly, There is sometimes the vibe of something watching you through the windows, and that's unsettling as well. It's also mimicked my dog's whining noise the same way. I don't care for it. Lights, every so often, couple times a month. We'll see flashes or streaks of light, though recently it's gotten more intense. It used to be that you'd see small pinpricks or quick flashes of pale light. These most often occur when only one person is looking, but in some cases they're so bright you can still see the glow of it even if you're the one facing the other direction. Recently it's taken to lighting up a specific corner of the downstairs living room. There's nothing in this area that could possibly glow this way, but both my roommate and I have seen a ball of warm orangish light grow in size and then quickly dim out over about 5 seconds. Shadows/people, in the same bathroom, we'll often see something almost person-sized but not really person-shaped moving around. So far it's only ever been in that area, but the movements are unique and sometimes it'll be lurking in the doorway behind you when you look in the mirror. It's not great but it doesn't feel dangerous like the mimicking does. My roommate said he's seen a woman walking around upstairs, but I haven't seen her myself. He's also said he's seen what looks like a woman with a veil or a bag over her head humming and spinning in circles with her arms out in our yard, but again, I haven't seen her. Feathers, okay, I may have gone a little overboard on making this post look credible because I know how crazy this one is going to sound. I'm honestly hesitant to post it. Of all the experiences though, this one's the one that really sticks with me and honestly convinced me this place was haunted, and if anyone has an explanation, I'd genuinely love to hear it. Last August, my roommate and I were sitting on the sofa chilling out. I was on the phone with my dog's vet scheduling an appointment. All of a sudden, my roommate nudges me and points at something hovering over his drink on the coffee table. At first I thought it was a black down feather that had somehow floated into the room. Don't ask me how a feather like that would have suddenly appeared, but that was the best my brain could do at the moment because that's kind of what it looked like. While I watched, the feather thing started moving in the air. The best way I can describe it is almost like a wispy betta fishtail, and as soon as I looked over at it, it started almost dancing. At this point I was so distracted I had to hang up on the vet, and that's when I noticed there were more. They didn't all look the same. One looked almost like a C-shape and it seemed to flash and shift positions as it floated, which again I realize sounds completely wild. That one took particular interest in me and headed right for me, at which point I tried to catch it with the blanket I had on me. I swear I watched this thing pass right through the blanket and move around my head. At the same time, another smaller one had floated over towards the space between me and my roommate on the couch. He tried to catch this one, and again his hand passed right through it. They seemed to phase into the wall or just vanish after around 3 minutes, but honestly, I couldn't tell you how long they really stuck around because my brain was too stunned. Seriously, WTF? Why did they look different from each other? Why a C-shape? Why was that one flashing? Why did it interact but not really do anything? Any advice or theories would be appreciated. We've done as much digging into the background of the place as we can, but we haven't found anything to explain what we're experiencing. It's not particularly scary or anything, but the quickness of the incidents makes it tough to record them, and that's not for lack of trying. Theories on the bag lady or feathers would be especially great. Story from r/paranormal. Posted by u/astro_vega. A voice in the woods. Hey y'all. Newbie here. I had posted this in the Glitch in the Matrix community, but I feel like it might be a better fit here. Anybody else have a similar experience? Living in North Austin, I'm constantly surrounded by wooded areas. In fact, my apartment complex has a small wooded nook and my unit overlooks this area. There is a small trail that is probably a good quarter-mile hike that leads into a canyon and my dog Willow loves to head out there and let out her pit bull energy off-leash. Down in the canyon, there is also a rough trail that runs into a small wooded area. Even on a sunny Texas day, this trail is very dark and creepy due to the crazy amount of tall trees that block most light. Although we walk that small trail occasionally, I'm not a big fan of walking back there alone, but it didn't start that way. One of the perks of living in Austin is the abundance of hiking trails that are always a good way to spend your afternoon. So naturally when we moved into the complex, I would hang out there frequently to enjoy good old Mother Nature. Eventually, the eerie feeling of being watched by someone or something kept me from revisiting as frequently. Alright, so here's where my paranoia gets justified. I'm out there with Willow one evening around 7 p.m. and we had about 30 minutes left of light out for the day. We're out in the canyon field and Willow is off-leash, doing dog stuff when she sees a herd of deer in the wooded area. She looks at me, looks back at the deer and in a split second books it into the woods towards these poor deers. As soon as I saw the herd, I knew she would run after them, so I was right behind her into the woods, but it wasn't long before I lost her back there. I'm running through the trees screaming, "Willow! Willow! Willow!" trying to follow the sounds of them running around. It wasn't long before I heard the voice of a man tell back, "Yeah?" Because I was freaking out on my potentially lost dog, I completely ignored the voice and continued to yell for Willow. But the voice didn't stop calling back. "Yeah?" The voice called back at least 5 times while I was frantically running after and screaming for Willow. Again, I was more concerned about her, so my mind was brushing off the voice answering me. Next thing I knew, Willow came running up to me, giving me a "Did you call me?" look like the pain in the ass she is. I quickly leash her and head into the trail back out. As we start walking back, it starts to dawn on me what just happened, and we haul ass out of those woods and don't stop until we are back on our doorstep. I've tried to find a reasonable explanation for what happened that evening. Surely there was an actual person out there, right? Austin has a crazy big homeless population, so maybe the guy was back there to get out of the sun. But why would he answer back "yeah"? You would think instead of "yeah," he would have said something like "she went this way," or "she's over here." Why would he answer back as if I were calling out for him? And then I think about the fact that the voice was crystal clear and I would have seen the man answering back. And the voice followed me despite me running back and forth like a spaz. The more I think about it, the more confused I get about it. What do y'all think about it? Ghost? Woodland creature? Homeless man? I still haven't decided how I feel about it. But it doesn't help that we often wake up to our patio sliding door open. The patio that overlooks the wooded area. Story from r/paranormal. Posted by u/according fault 8. Grandma visits me. I was my granny's favorite. She was the archetypal little old lady, full of light, love, and had a mile-long streak of mischief. She had a major stroke at 80, putting her on a deathbed. I was heartbroken to see her in such a state. She passed away when I was 16. I actually felt it faintly, a cold tickle in my chest. I couldn't bear to visit the funeral or burial. That would be far too much for me emotional-wise. A week after her burial, my mom and I were watching TV. It was around 6 to 7 p.m. I suddenly felt like someone was watching us. The 2 dogs we had sat at the kitchen archway. They wouldn't enter the living room no matter how much we called them. They would wag their tails but they wouldn't budge. My mom suddenly smelled honeysuckle, my granny's favorite flower. She went down the hall to follow it. I saw a squiggle of light follow her. I got up as she was sitting back down, telling her about the squiggle. When I went to show her where I saw it, I walked into a spot of ice-cold air. I knew it was Granny. I hugged that spot and it vanished. I miss her dearly, but I know she has moved on. She just wanted to say goodbye one last time.
Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.